What is up, my friends, and welcome to UFL Week in Review, one of the longest-running UFL podcasts in human history. I'm Mark Perry. This week, we're diving into the TV ratings, the evolving playoff picture, what's brewing in Memphis, plus stay tuned for game previews, our bets, and so much more, and a quick look at all the happenings in the UFL, all coming up next.
USFL is in business.
The XFL is underway.
There's no doubt spring just got stronger.
All right, we've got our Week 6 attendance and TV ratings in. Games were on Fox and ABC this past week. Main man Mike Mitchell, Suze wrote it up, but Mike Mitchell has all the latest details. So Week 6 TV ratings and attendance. Birmingham Stallions, Memphis Showboats in Memphis, 956,000 viewers, attendance of 5,609. You can check out our article. We talk more about Memphis and what's going on with that location and where things are at with that. That's a whole other story. But ratings are good. Houston, St. Louis on Fox, 829,000 viewers. Again, great numbers. Attendance, St. Louis bringing it, 32,969. Then on Sunday's game, Arlington at Michigan on Fox. We saw Jake Bates break our hearts here at UFL News Hub. 929,000 viewers, attendance of 7,428. Again, another market that's kind of sketch when it comes, especially that they have a good team. You kind of have a star player in Jake Bates of the kicker. I would go out to definitely see Michigan play. I mean, they're in the playoff hunt, but 7,428. We'll see how that plays out in the offseason as far as Michigan goes. And then, of course, San Antonio Brahmas against America's team, your DC Defenders. America tunes in to watch America's team. 1.2 million viewers tuned in on Fox to check out the DC Defenders beat the Brahmas. 1,220,000 people to be exact. Attendance 14,303. A lot of people, I think, no-showed because of tickets, because of the weather, but still 14,000 is a great number. When we looked at buying tickets for friends and that kind of thing, I mean, sections were full. So I think a lot of people were scared of the weather. However, it didn't rain and we were fine. It didn't rain on us, maybe like a drizzle, and that was it. And the temperature was great and we had a great time. So I expect this, we'll see what Mother's Day weekend brings here for the DC Defenders as well. Those are some other things. We also have Fox put out this. They said that, of course, the 1.2 million viewers watched the DC Defenders defeat the San Antonio Brahmas 18-12 Sunday on Fox behind wide receiver Kelvin Harmon's 8 catches and 101 yards and a touchdown. The game was the second most watched UFL game of the season. Think about that. The second most watched UFL game of the season on a Week 6. That is huge, my friend. Remember, we were getting 200,000, 300,000, and we were like, hey, at least when it comes to the television package that they have, this is working. It'll be interesting to see in the days ahead of where it kind of placed with other things on the schedule. You have the hockey playoffs, NBA playoffs. This seems like this kind of window in May is a good time for the league. Now, clearly they don't want to kick off league later in the season. They potentially might move it earlier. We'll kind of have to see where they kind of feel that the things will, where the league will kind of be next season. But these are great numbers. And here's the thing, even with the attendance in Michigan and Memphis kind of being low and something that we've kind of talked about, fans just need consistency. And I think as long as we have an off season, and if we bring back all 8 teams and add 2, I think that will help the product, give these ticketing guys and marketing people a chance to really crank up, the local markets. And also the fact that, these leagues have kind of come and gone. This is strong. We've heard strong words from other executives from Fox and ESPN in the last week at the halfway point of the season that things are looking good and they're pumped up. I'm sure they're very excited about this and happy. And clearly there's definitely going to be a season 2, no question about it, even just based on the ratings. And remember, they're not paying the NBA, the NHL. This is their product that they own. So they don't have to pay them billions of dollars to get these kind of viewership numbers. So all in all, I think this has been great numbers for the UFL. Let us know what you think in the comments. I mean, this is really great. And what the heck is going to be the number this weekend when you have games that actually matter? The St. Louis Battlehawks taking on Birmingham. AJ McCarron goes back to Birmingham. DC Defenders taking on the Michigan Panthers. Houston Roughnecks taking on, I believe it's the San Antonio Brahmas, and Renegades at Showboats. Like, all of these games have playoff implications. It's going to be an interesting week. It's a good week of football, spring football, and it's showing that the UFL is definitely strong. Week 6, getting those kind of numbers is fantastic. Let us know what you think in the comments. All right, we have the UFL playoff picture after week 6. Some interesting things here. We break it all down. So as we pass the midway point of the 10-game regular season, the UFL playoff picture is starting to become into focus, with the top teams from each conference automatically qualifying for the playoffs, along with the 2 teams with the best overall records outside of those 2, and they battle for the postseason spots. And that battle, my friends, is heating up. So what does the XFL conference playoff picture look like? Well, of course, the St. Louis Battlehawks, they've taken control. They're 5-1, 5-game winning streak. They appear strong and in a good position to at least claim a playoff berth, which would be huge. Could you imagine a home playoff game in St. Louis to take you to the championship game, which is also in St. Louis? Would be a big draw. They appear to be strong position. The other, San Antonio Brahmas, despite their loss to America's team, the DC Defenders this past week, remain in the hunt at 4-2. And of course, the DC Defenders have fought their way back. They're now 3-3. Kind of not the championship caliber team they were last year, but they're still in it. That was a huge win against the San Antonio Brahmas to stay in the hunt. I'm not going to go through all the different thousands of scenarios, just to kind of give you an idea. Now, however, the Arlington Renegades, they're 0-6 and are effectively eliminated from playoff contention. So even if Arlington won out, that means they would finish 4-6, like they did in 2023. They won the championship. We all know about that. They would tie, however, right now with San Antonio. And of course, St. Louis already would have that division. St. Louis would already have a better spot. So since they already have 5 wins, so they would only be able to get to that one playoff spot. And then at that point, if San Antonio lost all their games, they would tie. And if the Brahmas lost all their remaining games, not to mention, you also have to deal with the DC Defenders and Michigan Panthers as part of that. So Arlington takes on the Showboats this week, but then face San Antonio in week 8. A win this week with the Brahmas or Panthers loss, they could still have a shot at the playoffs, but very, very, very barely. Arlington basically needs to beat the Showboats, stay in it. If they lose to the Showboats and, San Antonio wins, some of those scenarios work out, then they're basically done. So without a win this week, Arlington is looking like they are pretty much out of the contention. So right now, the XFL conference, you've got the 5-1 St. Louis Battlehawks, 4-2 San Antonio Brahmas, and DC at 3-3, and then Arlington 0-6. This game for the DC Defenders this week is going to be huge because they're taking on the Michigan Panthers, who are also 4-2 and part of the USFL conference. Of course, the Birmingham Stallions, if you didn't hear this week, they're 6-0, perfect 6-0. And they are the first team to clinch a playoff spot. They don't have home field advantage, but they clinched a playoff spot because they're 6-0. Michigan Panthers are 4-2, and then Memphis and Houston are each 1-5. So the Memphis Showboats and Houston Roughnecks, both at 1-5, face an uphill battle to get back into the playoff race. At best, right now, both could be 5-5. So the chance of them a USFL conference title is out. So that leaves them with that position at the 4-2 position. So the only way they can get in the playoffs right now is via their record, not winning the conference. So they need the Defenders to beat the Panthers, which would make the Michigan Panthers 4-3. They need to win their game because then that would be 2-5. Then they might kind of be in it. That's the only way. So they need the Defenders to beat the Panthers this week. And the Roughnecks also need to beat the Brahmas this week to remain in the mix. So that whole thing between the DC Defenders, Roughnecks, Brahmas, those 2 games, not only are we getting that, but we're getting the Birmingham Stallions, St. Louis Battlehawks game. Those are going to have all sorts of, that game is like the championship game. But the DC game and the Roughnecks game against the Brahmas, that all is going to have playoff DC against Michigan Panthers and Roughnecks against the Brahmas. all going to kind of have playoff contention, playoff implications in there, knocking people out and people keeping them in the mix. So as the season final 4 weeks, every game now has an added importance because we got 4 weeks left. And now is the time that things are going to kind of start weeding. Nobody's officially eliminated from the whole thing at this juncture, but we've kind of get an idea. I mean, if you even look, so the rankings for the teams, you got Birmingham at the top, St. Louis at number 2, Michigan at number 3, San Antonio at number 4. That is basically, if the playoffs started today, you would bet that's how you would have it. I'm not sure how the Michigan San Antonio would work out who plays what. I would assume San Antonio would play St. Louis in St. Louis. Michigan would play Birmingham in Birmingham. The only one that's kind of on the outs that could kind of make their way in at this juncture, but barring a super, between is the 3-3 DC Defenders. Memphis, Houston, and Arlington are pretty much out of it. So really, it's DC Defenders and up, unless these guys get on some kind of crazy winning streak. We've seen it before, but highly not really feeling Memphis or Arlington or Houston really kind of putting something together. So that's where the battle is right now. So that is the playoff picture after week 6. We go into week 7. Lots of big games this weekend. Really, all of them are huge games. Birmingham at St. Louis, Michigan at DC, San Antonio against Houston, and then you've got Arlington against Memphis. And even Arlington-Memphis has playoff implications in it. So let us know what you think in the comments. Do you think DC, San Antonio, Michigan? Do you think Memphis, Houston, Arlington? Do you think they have a shot? Make sure you subscribe and let us know in the comments. We have our UFL power rankings for week 6, the return of the Defenders. Love the title. Week 6, of course. Okay, well, let's get right into it. Birmingham is at number 1, 6-0, the undefeated Birmingham Stallions, who are taking on St. Louis Battlehawks this weekend. The game of the week, the game of the year, one of the biggest spring football games of all time, probably. Then number 2, of course, St. Louis Battlehawks. They lost to Michigan, but then have been on a roll ever since, beating Arlington, San Antonio, Memphis, DC, and Houston. They're at number 2, no question. San Antonio Brahmas at number 3, 4-2. They lost to DC Defenders on the road. They also lost to St. Louis. Brahmas are struggling because I don't know if Quentin Dormady is the guy, but they are still holding on at number 3, but they are, it looks at least a little bit floundering a little bit. I mean, they don't look like they did at the beginning of the season. Michigan Panthers at number 4. They beat St. Louis. They beat Houston and Memphis and Arlington. Not really. Now they'll get a test this week because they're taking on my team and your team, America's team, the DC Defenders, this weekend. So they lost to Birmingham and they lost to San Antonio, some of the higher tier teams. So this game is pivotal for the Michigan Panthers and DC Defenders. DC Defenders need to show that, hey, this is who we are. This is our house, and we take it. Number 5, DC Defenders. They were also at week 5. They're at number 5, 3-3. We know what after they got crushed by St. Louis, they came out on top. And so this past week against the San Antonio Brahmas, so we'll see how they go this week. Huge game, playoff implications. We're now down the home stretch, week 7, 8, 9, and 10, 4 weeks left. So here we go with the playoffs. At number 6, holding their position, Houston Roughnecks at 1-5. Lost to Birmingham, lost to St. Louis, but they defeated Arlington. And that's been their only win of the season. Houston, I'm not feeling them. They're high at number 6, but I just don't think this is definitely the lower tier of the league. But at number 6, Houston Roughnecks. At 7, Arlington at 0-6. Gosh, they are so close. They lost to Michigan by 1 point. They lost to DC by 1 point. They lost to St. Louis by 3 points. You get the picture. They are bound to break out. I think they will this weekend. We'll have to stay tuned for that, but they're holding steady at number 7. And then at number 8, he's got the Memphis Showboats. Their one win, he's against Houston. Other than that, they lost to San Antonio, Birmingham, St. Louis, Michigan, and Birmingham. Could they beat Arlington Renegades? I mean, basically, we're getting the 2 worst teams in the league playing each other this weekend in the Arlington Renegades and Memphis Showboats. Whoever loses that game is going to be at the bottom of Jonathan's list. Let us know what you think about the power rankings, kind of everything holding steady. We know who is who they are, is who they say they are, kind of thing. The question is this week is playoff implications. I think we're going to get a lot of changes in the power rankings after this weekend. Let us know in the comments. All right, I got a little bit of heat. I got a little bit of traction with my article last week talking about the expansion and this kind of stuff. And some haters, oh, you use AI for your pictures, so therefore your credibility is bad, like all this kind of stuff. Or I've gotten it wrong in the past and people don't like me, and they do like me. I appreciate everybody kind of coming to my defense when it comes to that stuff. Other people that you trust told you one thing. I told you 8 teams, and it was 8 teams. I told you it was 50-50. It was 50-50. And I'm just telling you what I'm hearing, and you take it from there. Other people's sources, their stuff is based on coaches and agents and players, and that's not where I get my info from. I'll just leave it at that. But I thought it was really important to kind of take a look at the viability of Memphis as a location for the UFL. And I kind of went deep in this one. I said, as the playoff picture is coming clear, there's several teams on the out looking in. Of course, everybody can play spoiler, but the Memphis Showboats ticket sales, I mean, they have tried so much. But is Memphis really a good location to begin with? Or are they going to survive, or is this going to be the end? And let's get right into it. So the Memphis Showboats of the USFL from 1984 to 1985. In 84, they averaged 29,439 fans. They were 7-11. Then in 1985, 30,941 fans, and they were 11-7. And I believe they made the playoffs or something like that. That's kind of the first taste of Memphis Showboats having a football franchise there. Then you had the Memphis Mad Dogs of the CFL, averaged 14,550 people per game, but they dropped to less than 10,000 after the last couple games. And for the USFL, the CFL's US expansion, which I think that they should do, just in the upper parts of the US, I think it would work. Put a team or two out there. This was far the worst. Now, the team's owner was the founder of FedEx, Fred Smith. More important on him a little bit later as we go down. Then the XFL. The Memphis is rejoining the XFL. You had the Memphis Maniacs. You guys remember them in 2001. 20,000 fans, 217 per game was the average. The XFL's average attendance in 2001 was around 23,000 fans per game. So they were kind of a little bit low, but on par with attendance. Now we go towards the modern times, the AAF 2019, that you had the Memphis Express, which I didn't know that the Express was in part named after FedEx and Memphis, though Fred Smith had no part of the league or the team. I think that was maybe to entice him, or I don't know, Memphis Express, but that's where the Express name came from. 12,944 fans per game. And that was in the AAF era. And we've seen like San Antonio had bigger numbers in the AAF era. Some of these other locations did better during the AAF era and that's only just a couple years ago, because I really think the world and how we consume things and everything has changed dramatically just in the last couple of years. And then finally, you had the Showboats return to the USFL in 2023. So if you don't recall, the USFL paused the Tampa Bay Bandits so that they can add the Showboats. The team finished 5-5. The USFL did not release attendance figures, but we don't know. I assume that they weren't 10,000. I'm guessing, based on just looking at it on TV, was probably in that 5,000 to 7,000, kind of the way they have now. Remember, Memphis, there was a hub location also for the USFL. And why did the Memphis Showboats return to the USFL? And the Tampa Bay Bandits got put on pause because Fred Smith called Brian Woods at the time, the USFL president, and said, hey, we want a team in Memphis. And he said, you're Fred Smith with a lot of money. Okay, let's bring its team in. And so that's where we are now with the Memphis Showboats. What is the deal with this Fred Smith connection? So he's been a key figure in Memphis football scene with his ties. He also has ties with the NFL. He was a minority owner of the Commanders. He was instrumental in getting the Houston Oilers to play in Memphis before moving to their permanent home in Nashville, which then later became the Titans. He's been a vocal supporter of bringing professional football to Memphis and has invested in various football-related ventures with the city, including upgrading Liberty Bank Stadium. He's involved with the University of Memphis. So FedEx is hugely involved in the local community. And he's kind of, what he reminds me of is Milton Hershey of Hershey, in the sense that like he is just, brought all of the stuff to the Memphis area, and he wants a professional football team, an NFL team. I don't think they will give them, and we'll get into that in a second, but a USFL team, a UFL team would be perfect for him. The question is, are the fans interested in the team? So here's what's going on with Liberty Bowl Memorial Stadium. Was renamed in 2022 to Liberty Bank Stadium. And then in December of 2023, which is just a couple months ago, Smith pledged $50 million to kickstart renovations to the stadium. This was recent history. Now in March, just last month in 2024, the project is now at a total of $220 million between donations and matching funds and all this other stuff. So they announced the timeline for the renovation project, which will start in 2024 and go to 2026. The aim is to modernize the stadium, enhance the experience, et cetera, et cetera. So dude just put $50 million into upgrading the stadium so that they can play football in it. So clearly he's not doing that to have concerts going in there. I'm going to see Journey, Def Leppard, and Steve Miller Band, for example, and Hershey over the summer. He's not doing that to just have concerts there. He wants football teams there. So they have the University of Memphis, Tigers, cool. They have the Southern Heritage Classic and the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. That's not why he's doing. He wants to upgrade the stadium. He wants a professional team, clearly, in the city. But the question is the NFL really interested? I would say the NFL would be more interested in going overseas than putting a team in Memphis. And they're looking at what's going on in Memphis and being like, is it even a viable town? I mean, St. Louis would be on the list way before Memphis would be on the list for an NFL team. So he's putting his money into something. Now, would he put his money into something that is not going to have a UFL team in the future? So as the UFL continues to explore potential new markets and considers expanding with additional teams in 2025, the survival of the Memphis Showboats largely depends on Fred Smith. If Smith remains committed to the team and he's willing to be one of the first owners of the UFL, which that is a name, we've heard his name out there all the time as probably one of the first potential owners, then the Showboats will likely stay in Memphis. The ultimate decision will not be made, this is what I'm hearing, by the UFL's marketing team or even the upper management, but rather it's basically Redbird Capital, Fox Sports, and Fred Smith himself. It's going to be up to them. Not like, hey, the data is here. This isn't a good market. We need to move. All the metrics are saying we need to move. None of that matters. What matters is what Redbird, Fox Sports in particular, and Fred Smith himself, that's what's going to, what his plans are, what they're thinking when it comes to the Memphis market. Now, Memphis is rated number 50 in TV markets in the United States. And it's also the smallest market in the UFL's portfolio of teams. That's just to keep in mind. So they are the smallest market. And that's why, but I mean, they did in the past get 20,000 fans. 20,000 would be amazing for any of the teams. We're just looking at 10,000 right now. The next smallest market is Birmingham at 46 and then San Antonio at 31. That gives you an idea. The USFL teams are in smaller markets. The XFL teams were in bigger markets, St. Louis, Seattle, and Orlando in particular, way bigger than these markets. So what do we do? Smith, on the other hand, he's a gambling man and he takes risks. And early in the days of FedEx, I don't know if you know this, in the 1970s, Smith faced financial difficulties that threatened the company's survival. To keep FedEx afloat, Smith took a gamble, literally a gamble, flew to Vegas with the last of the company's $5,000, reportedly played blackjack and won $27,000, which he used to cover the company's $24,000 fuel bill, and it kept FedEx operating. And then the rest, of course, is history. So the history of professional football in Memphis has been a gamble with its ups and downs. Teams have struggled to maintain consistent success and strong attendance. The Memphis Showboats' recent decline in attendance raised concern about the viability of spring football in the city. The team has averaged 7,346 fans per game right now. This is the worst of the cities in city's history, in the city's history in itself, and the worst in the United Football League. So that's across the board. We also had Russ Brandon, Daryl Johnston out there trying to drum up interest, did nothing. Bobblehead did nothing. That's kind of where Birmingham is. So if Birmingham is going to survive, and I think it could be a good market, there's just no interest. And people and within the UFL are trying to crack the code to figure out how they could get people interested in this market. The Showboats team is not good. That doesn't help things. But at the same time, you have football, professional football in Memphis, and it's just not working. Are they going to? Here's the big question. Now they're going to have these the renovations in the stadium, and it will not affect football whatsoever. It will be taking place and will not affect the field and fans on the field. So it's not like they have to shut down the team and move it somewhere else, which is kind of what we talked about in the last video. But in this announcement that just happened recently, they said that they are going to continue to play football while they're doing the renovations. So I was like, okay, cool. Including starting the renovations like this month in May, before the season's even over, especially giving the attendance what's going on there. So it all boils down to really Fred Smith. If he's willing to put up money to buy a franchise, I believe, and I put this in the article, that at the end of the day, if with the involvement of Fred Smith and his commitment to renovating the stadium and the hopes for a future league, like, he needs to put up his own money. Like, we have to worry about the UFL. And the city has already had 2 seasons behind it. Could the league pause it until the renovations are complete as an excuse to kind of close stuff up, tell the fans they're returning in 2026? Is Fox Sports going to tell Fred Smith to put up his own money to keep the team in Memphis? The UFL 2024 offseason will be real interesting. So I haven't heard anything aside from just that Memphis Showboats is vulnerable now because of the attendance, because it's such a small market. Why have, you have a number 50 market? You can add a Seattle or Orlando. That market is more people, which not only impacts the attendance, but impacts your overall reach of your league. I think we hit numbers when the XFL in 2020 was so popular, including on our website, and then in the second 3.0 version of it, numbers were down across the board because they were missing, even though New York and LA the attendance wasn't that great, you're still missing those huge markets with tons of people in them to generate interest in your league. The TV ratings are showing another side of things, that things are strong. And, I think St. Louis, DC, Birmingham, Arlington are all safe. San Antonio is safe too. I think Michigan is safe. It's just really what's going to happen with Memphis. And if there was no Fred Smith in Memphis, the Showboats let's say if they did happen, if Fred Smith is like, yeah, this is just not working, which I think he's a gambling man, and I think he wants to stay in. He wants a pro football team. I think he would be the first owner, but I'm the UFL. I'm trying to survive. I'll be like, Fred, if you want this team, you need to buy it and you need to market it in that location. It's on you to keep that franchise afloat, but give us money, and then you are now the owner of the team. That hasn't happened yet, but he's willing to put up $50 million to renovate the stadium. He should be willing to put up $50 million to buy the Memphis Showboats for himself and then manage it with his own team and see what happens. So let me know what you think in the comments. Is Memphis even a viable place for the UFL? What about Fred Smith? What about the UFL and their survival? It's a whole kind of interesting thing that we're not going to know about what the solution is until the offseason. So let me know what you think in the comments.
In football, every play counts towards the win, just like every click counts towards growing your business. At CM3 Solutions, we're the game changers you need. With our cutting-edge SEO strategies, we'll put your business in the top league, ensuring you're seen by the fans that matter most, your customers. And when it comes to web design, we craft winning plays with stunning websites that not only look great but perform. From the first click, your audience is engaged with user-friendly designs that score big on customer satisfaction. Need a custom app? We've got the playbook to bring your vision to life, enhancing your digital presence and driving your business forward. So, whether it's SEO, web design, or application development, team up with CM3 Solutions. Let's score those business goals together. CM3 Solutions, where your business wins. Visit us today at cm3solutions.com.
We've got our Week 7 picks. First up, Memphis Showboats at Arlington Renegades, a 1 p.m. game on Saturday. Renegades -3. The over-under is 45. I'm taking Renegades, taking the under, and I'm taking Renegades in the money line. I think finally the Arlington Renegades, your XFL champion Arlington Renegades, get off the snide. I think they can beat Memphis. Memphis offense. To me, Memphis is almost, I thought they would be a great team. I think they're kind of one of the worst teams in the league. I think Renegades could finally beat a team, though Case Cookers could come out and play well. They're just struggling offensively. Their identity, we thought they would be a high-powered offense, and it's just not. No running game, suspect offensive line. So I think Arlington has been close multiple times, only losing by 1 point. I think Arlington can beat Memphis Showboats. Game 2, the game of the century in spring football, the greatest game in the history of spring football, to have all you nerds that go, well, what about 1983, like in the modern era? Well, then what about one of the biggest spring football games of all time, St. Louis Battlehawks at the Birmingham Stallions. That is at 4 p.m. I already told my wife, I was like, I want to be home to watch the game. Stallions -3.5, over-under is 47.5. I'm going Battlehawks. The call is the law. They've been hot. They've been able to put up points. AJ McCarron coming home. You got a big game. AJ, he's there. I'm picking the over. Battlehawks. I think they will win it. Adrian Martinez. I think maybe the Battlehawks defense can shut him down a little bit. Take away his running game, which will make him throw more. I mean, he's still an MVP candidate. You're basically talking about the two MVP candidates. I would be stunned if Matt Corral was in there or does a swapping thing, which I heard that the Stallions aren't doing that anymore. It's like, it's your game. You're playing the whole game. Both quarterbacks agreed to that. So I think the Battlehawks could cause the law. Stallions could win, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. I bet against the Stallions a couple times, and I continue to lose. So they could, and they're a stacked team. They've been together for a long time. They're getting some injured players back. It's going to be a tough test. I do think maybe they'll throw up some points. We'll have to see how it plays. I wouldn't be surprised if you're a betting person, I would go Birmingham under Birmingham on the other side too, to protect your bet. You could do that as well, and I wouldn't blame you for that. Game 3, a lot of also playoff implications. Michigan Panthers at DC Defenders, America's team, your team at noon this Sunday. Defenders -1, so they're really thinking Michigan Panthers are going to win. The over-under is 43. I've got Defenders. I've got the over. I think they're going to take it. The Defenders have been kind of Jekyll and Hyde, like kind of getting it pulled together. It will be at home. I just think Danny Etling is not the guy. If it was EJ Perry, I would be very worried. They've had some injuries. Frank Gainda is out for the season, I believe. The big defensive player of the year in the USFL, he's out. So I think that Michigan has beat lower-ranked teams, but hasn't been able to beat the higher-ranked teams. DC Defenders, this is going to be a great matchup. I think DC Defenders wins it out. And then San Antonio, Houston Roughnecks, which also has playoff implications. All of these games do. I mean, if Arlington wins or Memphis wins, they're still in it. Arlington is out. San Antonio, if they lose and the DC Defenders win, then that will help the DC Defenders. And Houston Roughnecks, they're trying to stay in the playoff hunt mathematically. This game's at 3 o'clock. Brahmas -3. Over-under is 40. If it was not Quentin Dormandy at the quarterback, I would say San Antonio is going to win this one. And the over, he's Jekyll and Hyde. Sometimes he's really hot, sometimes he's not. But I got the Brahmas and I've got the over in that game. As far as Finn's parlay, which has hit twice in a row, I got the Brahmas with the spread, the over under. I've got the over in the Battlehawks Stallions game, and then the Renegades as your money line pick. $1 pays $5.31. So you want to check that out. And I've done, the math for my parlay for the over under stuff. $1 pays 13. The money line pays $12.10, and then the spread pays $12.89 if you want to go that route. As far as picks for the DFS, which I have not won any so far, I've got Adrian Martinez. I know I'm picking him in one respect, but I don't know. I just think he's been playing so well. He could surprise me, and Birmingham could surprise me and just mop up on the St. Louis Battlehawks. So I have Adrian Martinez as kind of my backup. Wes Hills going against DC. It's hard to pick, but 153 yards from John Lovett last week. Wes Hills probably can do that too, plus with the quarterback situation in Michigan. Hakeem Butler has just been on fire lately. They're going to go to him a lot. And this game as well, you're going to pay up for him. I have Grayson from Houston at 4,100, 5.4. Just again, a cheap guy in there. Vinny Papali, I've got in there. He's kind of consistent. He'll get you a bunch of catches. Sometimes he'll get a touchdown, sometimes not. 8.8, he's 6,400. And Mariner, who did good last week, I have him for Michigan also at 8.4. That's 5,600, and then the Stallions defense. So kind of went more on the Stallion side of things, but I have Hakeem Butler. I really paid up for Hills, Martinez, and Butler, and really kind of had to fill in best I could with my lineup. Jim's lineup does better than me. He's got Martinez. He's got Devontae Smith, which he says he was asking me. He wasn't sure if Devon Smith is out, and I think he is out and injured. I think he's out, so you might have to replace him. And then he's got Martinez starting this week as well. They already got a playoff spot locked up and may as well start protecting the running QB, but he could be wrong. I think Martinez is going all in for this game. This is a huge game. So I think Martinez is good. Calvin Harmon has been great for DC. He's been their only bright spot on offense. Hopefully that continues this week. Why not? Just keep going to him. Davis from Memphis, we've been using him too. It's 7,700. He's got him. 11.9 is his fantasy points per game. He's got Peyton. He's been up and down from for Arlington. JP Peyton, Javante Peyton, 6,700. He's got him at 11.7 fantasy points. That's a good pick. Mariner, he's got him as well, 5,600. And then the Brahmas defense, which I think is a good pick as well. So there are two kind of options that you can go with your DFS lineup to give you an idea of what to do. You've got my picks. So go out there and make some money. Make some money for you. If you're married, make some money for your wife and be like, hey, I did it for you. You can get her a bunch of money, and then you could buy some flowers or get her a massage or something like that. Let us know what you think in the comments, of course. What are you picking this weekend?
Hey, football fans! Just because the NFL season has wrapped doesn't mean the thrill of fantasy football has to end. Introducing NewsHubFantasy.com, your year-round fantasy football haven. Dive into the action with the United Football League and Canadian Football League. Whether it's the UFL's dynamic plays or the CFL's strategic battles, we've got you covered with fantasy leagues and weekly pick'em games that keep the competition fierce and the stakes high, all season long. Best of all, it's absolutely free. Join existing leagues to challenge the community, or create private leagues to compete with friends. With NewsHubFantasy.com, the game never stops. Strategy, camaraderie, and the chase for fantasy football glory continues beyond the NFL, bringing you closer to the sport you love every day. Don't sit on the sidelines. Visit NewsHubFantasy.com today, sign up for free, and keep your fantasy football season going. Because here, the game never ends. NewsHubFantasy.com, where football fantasy lives all year round.
Remember to keep playing News Hub Fantasy because you're going to have a chance to win our there's still pay-per-view pick'em or pick'em game. A pay-per-view pick'em is something I used to do years ago for wrestling. So we have that, and you could still play that and sign up for CFL. Planning on doing that. We just got to check on the API when it comes to that stuff. So stay tuned for all of that good and stuff as well. The show was a little late this week. I was at my wife's. She had new treatment, upgraded her treatment. And their plan is that in the fall, she will have a stem cell transplant. She will lose her hair when they do that. That was kind of something that we learned this week. I kind of knew that was coming, but the doctor kind of confirmed that. So she will have treatment. She's got a new level of treatment, so maybe she might be a little bit more tired. So all that stuff happened yesterday, so I was with her. That's why the show was late. Just wanted to kind of let you guys know about that. And I also signed up for my, because DC Defenders won, I have my next donation of blood coming up in beginning of June, because you can't do it like back to back. But I'm looking at doing platelet stuff. That is something I am looking into. So anyway, enough about me. Recently released, did you see Ben DiNucci got released by the Denver Broncos? And Sue has got a long article talking about how his early years and the impact for teams like San Antonio or Michigan Panthers, having Chase Garbers out and EJ Perry, bringing him in. He's kind of, is he battle ready? Would it take him a week to get going? He played really well in San Antonio or with Seattle. Does Ben DiNucci come back and have impact at the playoff picture? Something to consider. We'll see if he signs up. But I mean, it's getting close to the end, but why not bring him in? I mean, he could help you with the last 2 games of the season. You never know. Jim Pop was on the McElroy and Kublik show talking about the future. He's the vice president of player personnel of the United Football League. He appeared on there. He talked about some things that are definitely come up. He discussed the UFL's upcoming college draft. Then the USFL did it. The XFL did it. They will be having a college draft. He kind of goes through the process, and then had several guys come to the USFL the first year that came in and played several games, and then went to the NFL, skipped the whole process, talking about mini camps and et cetera. But they are open to guys to go, guys that are in the portal, that have nowhere to go, junior college guys. It's just if they're good enough to play in the league, they could be drafted, and that's part of their college draft process, which will take place after the season, which is pretty cool. So we'll get that draft going. NFL interest in UFL players. He said we're getting a lot of NFL teams watching everything. They get every bit of the tape. They're asking questions and they're following players. So the NFL scouts love this kind of stuff, being able to pull in players. And you already seen guys now like Jake Bates, clearly. I mean, Hakeem Butler stick him on a practice squad. I don't know why he's not. I mean, he's playing great. Would just AJ McCarron go back to Cincinnati? Like, who knows? But so that is a good thing. Long-term success and expansion. He mentioned, Jim Pop, not me, that several cities have expressed interest in having UFL teams, and the league is carefully considering its options for expansion while focusing on improving fan experience. He said this whole thing is built for long term, right people behind us, taking small steps, just continuing to look at the different markets of people who want the league, along with the markets that we're in, try to establish it, make it better, and then try to figure out what's the better niches. We know right now there's several cities that are just putting a lot of fans in the stands, and there's several cities that just haven't cracked that envelope yet, and we're still trying to figure that out. But there's several different people out there that do want teams in their cities, and they're going to have to figure out from the best ability of our league and growing it slowly. So there are people out there that want teams in their cities. The league is going to try to figure out that, and I believe this is Michigan has people interested, and I know, and of course Fred Smith, we've talked about him. So he said we're a lot of planning. They're working on future years to keep it going, but they're really happy with things. We have been reporting, of course, that there are several interested parties in UFL franchises. We've talked about that. We've also heard from sources this past week that there was high-level meetings going on talking about UFL's next step for season 2. League officials are happy with television numbers, like Pop had said, but they're trying to crack the code for the locations, specifically Memphis and Michigan. The question is, are they going to play it where they're just be like, well, let's give it we have a whole off season to kind of get people in the stands. And I get that. The problem with Memphis is that they already had a team last year, and it's getting worse. And are they really going to come? Is one off season of marketing really going to turn down a market when you could just flip on Orlando, flip on Seattle, and be good with it? Or even hype, expansion now? I would if you have made a decision this weekend that you were going to expand and we've got everything covered, I would week 8 or in the playoffs and just tease, here are 5 cities that could potentially be joining the UFL, and just get people talking about it. I think that's what draws eyeballs and interest in the league, is anytime you talk about expansion, because I think people want to get in if there's a team that's close to them. And I think the more teams that you add, then the more people will get into the league, and we'll be going from there. He also talked about Zach Potter, general manager of the Birmingham Stallions, calling him a superstar, and noting that NFL teams are interested in him, bringing him in as a general manager role. So, I mean, he's built a team. If they beat, if they beat St. Louis and they go on to win the championship and beat St. Louis again, why not bring him in as a general manager of an NFL team? So that was some interesting comments there. UFL partners with Visit Missouri for the Road to Missouri campaign. This was announced. The partnership for the Show Me State, the home of course, the UFL St. Louis Battlehawks. This is kind of the Road to Missouri campaign. They're building this up ahead of the UFL championship game at the Dome, which I will be there June 16th. So they're doing initiatives designed to engage fans on and off the field, includes exclusive game day experiences, interactive social media campaigns, special promotion highlighting Missouri's hidden gems. Additionally, UFL games will feature additional select UFL games will feature activations, providing fans with a taste of Missouri's unique culture. So they're doing a bunch of stuff. We'll see if they come out and come into like DC Defenders to talk about the city. But hopefully this championship game, maybe they'll do a little bit more than the USFL and XFL did in the past, as maybe some fan events. But we will be there, flying in Friday, my friends, and hanging out Saturday, and then going to the game Sunday. It all kind of depends on how my wife is feeling, but she is planning on going there to the game. Finally, let's get to some emails real quick before we wrap up the show. Shimmy says, talking about my mid-season review of strong markets, expansion, and trademarks. Philadelphia Stars, that would be great. So Subaru Park, Chester, PA would be even better. What a gorgeous stadium, like most MLS stadiums are. Let's see Salt Lake City, Portland, San Diego, Austin, Columbus, etc. Sorry, daydreaming. UFL teams playing in MLS stadiums. Thank you. Go UFL. The problem is that the powers that be don't like the playing in MLS stadiums. And also part of the problem, I think, why they don't like the MLS stadiums is that the MLS needs to figure out their schedule first before the UFL can kind of do their things. And I think that's why the schedule gets delayed every time, is because they're waiting for the MLS schedule to kind of be finalized so that then they can figure out what dates they can put the DC Defenders in there. So I think that's part of the problem why maybe there's not a much. I think the atmosphere at an MLS stadium is fantastic to have football in there, and I would do more stadiums, but I think that's part of the problem, is it kind of delays announcing things. I believe that could play a factor. He also says, he says, I'm sure start date in 2025 is number one. He said the AAF, XFL, and the XFL, the AAF, the XFL in 2020, and the XFL in 2023 all started late February, while the USFL started in mid-April. I understand the merger USFL starting 2 weeks earlier, March 30th. Never seen the attendance from the UFL. So he's still talking about partnerships and stuff like that. There is some rumblings that they might shimmy the schedule a little bit, maybe start a little bit earlier in the year in March. But I think, like, especially right now, I mean, you saw like record-breaking numbers that they got in this past week for a game. It was the second highest rated game of the season. And, this might be a good time, but I don't know, maybe you might want to have more playoff games going on right now. But definitely we'll have to see how that all plays out at the end of the season. All right, my friends. Well, that's it for this week's show. Again, we'll be at Walters before the game around 10 o'clock. So come and hang out there. We'll be at the St. Louis for the championship game. Again, sorry for the late response, but I said to deal with my wife's stuff and, family. I always tell even my writers, I'm like, family is important first, and God is good. And I can't thank you for your continued prayers. She's doing good. Her numbers are good. It's just, leading up to this stem cell. We have a choice between University of Maryland or Johns Hopkins to do the stem cell. So if you know anybody or have been experienced when it comes to those two hospitals or no doctors, and we've definitely been asking on social media, just trying to gather as much information as we can to see who's kind of who people like and what they thoughts and their experiences. Both hospitals have gotten great remarks across the board. It's just who's the doctor that's going to perform it. And we need to figure out that pretty soon. That's kind of going with my life. Hope things are going well in yours. As always, God bless. Enjoy the games this week. Huge game. Is Cacaw the law, or is the Berringham Stallions will bury Cacaw this weekend? We'll find out. That's it for me. As always, God bless, and I will see you all later.